我们欧洲商会的何执行长，欧洲经贸办事处的高处长，那以及我们今天在座的还有一些我们国内的企业以及国外的企业，各位女士、各位先生，大家午安，大家好。那今天很荣幸来参加这一次的一个交流会议。那循环经济是目前我们国内正在推动的一个新的一个政策的极力要推动的一个政策方向。那由于循环经济里面涉及到就是说原物料跟我们的生产产品完了以后使用生产的一些废弃物的循环再利用，这个每个环节的串接都是我们循环经济的一环。那今天我们借由这一次的交流会，希望能够连结国外的厂商，或是到国内来采购一些我们循环经济的再生的产品，希望能够借由我们国外的厂商能够采购国内的再生产品的原物料，然后来推动循环经济。那今年是因为我们武汉肺炎的疫情打乱了我们的国家的一些经济的运作的一些节奏，那同时也让我们产生一个新的思考，我们的新的模式。那因为今天我们的全球的供应链重新的洗牌之后对于我们的消费模式在后疫情时代我们希望就是从我们欧盟为首的提出的绿色振兴计划，也就是我们的绿色正纲来作为我们计划的核心。那加上国际品牌大厂相继提出来循环采购的目标，纷纷要求供应商于生产制造中能够提高循环物料以及再生能源的占比。那这一部分会间接的带动我们国内的循环经济的推动，以及我们国内的产品的一个生产再生产品的生产。那在过去的循环经济一直是我们欧盟一直在提的一个目标，那也是我们台湾所学习的一个方向。那欧盟是我们的一个最佳的伙伴。那借由这一次的会议我们透过了我们欧洲经贸办事处的高处长以及来分享欧盟的绿色振兴经济计划，希望能够在未来这个基础上持续的由本局跟欧洲经贸办事处能够双边的循环供应计划的对话的一个机制。那接着呢，我们的会议会邀请一些厂商，包括就是我们的家乐福、科斯创、迪卡侬、宜家家居以及联合利华等等的这些国际大厂以及国内的大厂，能够对我们国内的厂商能够来采购循环再生产品。那这一边包括就是我们这些通路商他所需要的，或是我们的我们的大厂生产出来的产品需要的包装材料，以及他所生产的产品能够提高它的再生物料的使用。那希望借由这一次的一个交流会，能够促进我们国内的厂商跟国外的厂商能够进一步的沟通交流。那也希望这一次政府借由这一次的一个交流会，能够达到促进我们资源的辅导以及绿色产品还有节能减碳等等的相关议题的推动。那这个交流会的部分也希望我们能够国际大厂能够在这一次交流会跟国内的厂商能够进一步的互相的经验交流，也能够达到一些促进产生一些火花，让我们的双边能够有一些更好的一个交流。那希望透过这一次的交流会议那能够带动我们国内的循环经济的一个议题的一个推动，也能够全面的促进我们国内对于循环经济的一个发展。那今天只在此代表经济部工业局欢迎各位参加这一次的交流会议。那也希望祝各位与会的代表能够身体健康，万事如意，也庆祝各位我们这一次的交流会议能够圆满成功。谢谢。
Deputy Director General Yang, Head of the European Economic and Trade Office, Filip Grzegorczewski. ECT members, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. 很不好意思啊，因为我以为是今天会有一些老外在这里，所以其实稿子准备的都是英文版本，拍谁真的不好意思。Okay. So, we're very, very happy to have this opportunity to work together with the IDB, the Industrial Development Bureau, once again. There are many, many areas where we have a very close cooperation with the IDB. In fact, I think this is the third or fourth time in this last 2-week period that I've actually bumped into representatives of the IDB due to the many overlapping areas of responsibility. Very, very happy to be at today's matchmaking event. I can tell you I have not been in a matchmaking event for at least 20 years, in a previous life. So anyway, today we are focusing on the circular economy and the supply chain. Very, very important. There's a lot of things, a lot of movement going on currently in the global supply chains at the moment due to different political aspects and so on. But if we focus more on the environmental aspect of it, we can clearly now come to the conclusion that there is scientific evidence that human-caused behavior is causing climate change. And this is something that we need to do something about, and we need to take into consideration going forward. The coronavirus pandemic has demonstrated the importance of supply chains becoming more resilient. So not only, of course, the pandemic, but also the political situation at the moment has also made it more important that we have a diversification and more resilient supply chains moving forward. So the beauty of the circular economy is really twofold. One is, of course, to reduce the use of our natural resources, because there's, of course, obviously a limit on them, but also to close loops in production cycles, which will make them more, the supply chains will make them more resilient. So by adopting circular economy models, we can both preserve the planet and strengthen the business resilience at the same time. So European governments and companies have been pioneers in the environmental protection for many, many years. When it comes to environmental protection, I think it's very fair to say that we Europeans are global leaders. And we are moving away from fossil fuel usage to energy use where the carbon emissions are greatly reduced in renewable energy. The ECT has welcomed the government's effort to improve energy efficiency and the transition to renewable energy. Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is the offshore wind, but there are many, many other areas where we're also making a lot of progress. For example, EV charging and so on. And these are just some of the areas that I was mentioning earlier where we have interaction with the IDB. But the transition is actually proceeding a little bit too slowly. Progress is made difficult by the fact that supply chains have become global and very sophisticated. So European authorities and companies are already implementing innovative solutions, some of which they will be sharing with you today. In particular, I would like to thank all the participants here today, the ECT members that are here, the Carrefour, Covestro, IKEA, Unilever, and I hope I didn't forget anybody. But there are others here as well, I'm sure, that will be sharing their experiences on the circular sourcing and perhaps find some good partners here today going forward. By sharing the best practices today, we hope to help Taiwan make progress in the transition to a circular economy, boost business at the same time. So with all that, I hope you have a very successful afternoon and wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Deputy Director of the Industrial Development Bureau, Yang Po-kang, CEO of European Chamber of Commerce, Taiwan, Freddie Höglund, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. 大家好，我是欧洲经贸办事处的处长，我中文的名字是高哲夫，我波兰的名字是 Filip Grzegorczewski。今天很高兴应主办单位的邀请来跟大家分享欧盟的绿色复苏计划。But I'll continue in English. I hope you don't mind. I hope you'll be able to understand. This is because it is quite technical. And for me, this topic is also quite complicated, and I don't want to make any mistakes. That's why I'll stick to English if you allow me. I'll try to entertain you with some slides so that you do not fall asleep. Feel free to interrupt me with questions if you have any. Then I'll try to give you the best answers I can. And I'll talk about our policy, about the European Union approach to the Green Deal and Green Recovery Plan. I'll start with the impact of the COVID-19. Well, you know that this crisis has a huge impact on the global economy. It caused a global economic slowdown in some countries. It caused the economies even to lock down. The collapse of tourism sectors and the predicted credit downgrades will definitely hit especially weaker countries, in particular developing countries and LDCs, least developed countries. More severe climate impacts, such as worse than average hurricane seasons this year, are likely to exacerbate these challenges for vulnerable countries. So it's not only the COVID-19, but the COVID-19 combined with regular nature phenomena will put us all in trouble. And the economic crisis caused by this pandemic will limit adaptive capacities of many countries, including European Union, but also including Taiwan. The adverse effects of climate change are likely to affect our ability to meet our development objectives. This is something that we really have to bear in mind when we discuss how to get out of this crisis situation, of the pandemic crisis situation. The crisis has opened a window of opportunity for action. An action on adaptation, an action on resilience. And the pandemic has drawn attention to the need of integrating resilience into a range of risks, into national governance and the decision-making. The accelerated and expanded adaptation and disaster risk reduction as part of the post-COVID-19 recovery packages should be considered as an opportunity to generate a multitude of economic, social and environmental benefits and help to avoid further losses in public expenditures. It means that we could take this impulse, this negative impulse, in a way of turning it into something positive, making us change the economy in a way that will make not only the economy better, but also the climate better. And this is the thinking that we had in mind when we were thinking of, when we were considering the COVID-19 recovery plan. Over the next 2 years, governments around the world will seek to spend around 10 trillion euro. The amount of money is incredible. 10 trillion euro. We need good, mathematics mind to convert it into new Taiwan dollars. But it's really an unimaginable amount of money that will be borrowed, actually, from future generations. And in the European Union, to protect lives and livelihoods, to repair the single market, as well as to build a lasting and prosperous recovery, the European Commission has proposed to harness the full potential of the EU budget in May, trying to think of the best way to spend this money, to transform our economy. And the Council, the European Council, agreed to move in this direction, to think of branding the recovery with a color, and we chose green. So this is going to be a green, digital, and resilient the key words for the recovery of future of Europe for the next generation. And in the budget plan, that the Commission will now raise 750 billion euro for the next generation EU. So we came up with a code name for this plan, Next Generation EU, which will be worth 750 billion euro. Together with the targeted reinforcements to the long-term EU budget for 2021-2027, it will bring the total financial firepower of the European Union to 1.85 trillion euro. Again, it's difficult to imagine those numbers. This is not what we are normally used to. But this is to tell you that we have really incredibly huge responsibility now to spend this money well, so that we not only restart the economy but also do something good for the environment and make our future more resilient but also more green. And the economic destruction caused by the virus has not put into jeopardy our determination to make the European Union climate neutral by 2050. You know that we had this plan of becoming climate neutral by 2050. So you might ask a question: is it still on the table? Do we still want to achieve this ambitious goal? And the answer is yes. So we still want to achieve it. And the target of 30% of total budget is set to spend on green-related program. And the choices we make today will define tomorrow's future. This is obvious when you hear this sentence, but when you realize how many concrete actions it takes and the money involved, then it makes you realize that it really matters. So again, this event today is quite timely because I'm sure that Taiwan is facing exactly the same problems. We need to get it right. We need to get it right from the get-go, and this is why the recovery plan should be designed as a once-in-a-generation opportunity to build back better. 3 Bs, build back better. A better economy, thanks to this negative impulse of the COVID-19 pandemic. And by doing so, we'll invest in the economy of the 21st century, but not only in the obsolete carbon economy of the past. We should move forward with the new technologies. So that should stimulate our economy to come up with new answers, new technologies. Green, digital, and resilient. Again, you heard from the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen that green, digital, and resilient are the 3 key words of the recovery plan, and the Commission is currently developing a thorough impact assessment plan to increase the 2030 climate ambition. The European Union will also continue efforts to ensure resource use is decoupled from economic growth by promoting the transition to a circular economy and fight biodiversity loss. So protecting and restoring natural ecosystems, both terrestrial and marine, and reducing the pollution of the air, land, water, and oceans are key to boosting our resilience, and again in the interest of human health and well-being. This is again to tell you that an increased development with the pace just to catch up the losses caused by the pandemic. It does not really mean that we have to get back to the heavy industry, to the thinking in the old terms of the economy. We can go with the new technologies. We can achieve more, and we can transform the economy. So that's an ambitious plan that we have in Europe. Let me elaborate now the key programs that the European Commission is working on in its Green Recovery Plan. So the first one, and the one that is the most relevant to the theme, to the topic of today's meeting, is the Circular Economy Action Plan for Sustainable Growth. If the material resources, the demand for the material resource of growing world economy and population are met with current patterns of production, consumption and associated policies and infrastructure, global material use would more than double between 2015 and 2060. This scale of growth would result in substantial additional stress on resource supply systems and unprecedented environmental pressure and impacts which are well beyond planetary boundaries. So it's not only the problem of the European Union, it's also your problem. The recovery effort the recovery effort thus has to take a different path, and we have to rethink the way we develop economy. And the International Resource Panel, launched by the United Nations Environment Programme in 2007, says that using resources more effectively could increase the size of the global economy by $2 trillion by 2050, about the same as the GDP of Italy, to give you a comparison. So if we were wiser in the way we spend money, and if we put money in more green technologies, in more green resources, then we could save, or we could increase the GDP by an impressive amount, which is equal to the size of the GDP of Italy, $2 trillion by 2050. That's quite something. I think it's worth it then, especially in the context of the pandemic. The European approach to sustainable consumption and production is an essential part of the EU's Green Recovery Strategy. In March, the Commission adopted a new Circular Economy Action Plan, which advocates for a worldwide transition to circular economy and decoupling economic growth from resource use. Now let me say a few words about the Raw Material Initiative, Sustainable Global Supply Chain, which is another key program of the European Commission working on the Green Recovery Plan. This plan, this European Green Deal, recognizes that access to resources is a strategic security question. You can observe it when you follow the news from Europe, where different governments often clash on the issues of access to resources. You can also observe it in a global scale, where those conflicts on resources lead to wars. So ensuring the supply of sustainable raw materials, in particular of critical raw materials, which are necessary for clean and digital technologies, is one of the prerequisites of the success of the transition towards a climate-neutral and environmentally sustainable society. The third program of the European Commission working on the Green Recovery Plan is Farm to Fork and Biodiversity Strategies. The Farm to Fork and biodiversity strategies further contribute to these efforts, and investing in nature protection and restoration will be critical for Europe's economic recovery from the COVID-19 crisis, and it is considered key for boosting the resilience and preventing the emergence and spread of future outbreaks. And we want to reduce the environmental and climate footprint of food systems and adapt them to climate change. So that's the idea. The next thing that I should bring to your attention is the abstention of dependence on fossil fuel. That's also key in our thinking of the green recovery. The strong decline in economic activity added to other demand-supply imbalances in the oil market, and this has caused a sharp fall in oil prices, And now this might decrease the economic case for use of clean and more energy-efficient alternatives in transport and other sectors. It might also destabilize fossil fuel producer countries, making it more difficult for them to engage into a green recovery pathway. So here you have a case where the economic challenges have an impact on the strategic future of a number of countries. And if we don't manage it well on a global scale, it might lead to serious global conflicts. So business as usual recovery based on the systems of the past rather than the systems we want to see would be an enormous missed opportunity. And it is a recipe for emerging from one crisis only to find we have hastened the advent of the other. We cannot do it. And clean energy is simply the answer for humans' future. As banal as it sounds, that's the realization we are coming to now in Europe, facing the need to recover from the COVID-19. Let me now conclude in a few words that achieving climate neutrality will transform economies profoundly. And the investment should help the European Green Deal becoming a job-creating engine. And crucially, past experience has shown that there is not a contradiction between growth and climate action. And you can look at Europe's decoupling experience. Between 1990 and 2019, we cut emissions by impressive 23%, whilst growing by 60%. So it is possible. The circular economy is another example of how economic growth, job creation and lower environmental footprint can go hand in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, we Europeans believe that investing in green is investing in the future. The European Union is leading the world on advanced green technology and is developing policies for sustainable growth. I would like to invite you to join us to invest in green future, to invest in the European Union. If you're interested in more EU investment information, my office, together with Ministry of Economic Affairs and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, will hold the 2020 EU Investment Forum on the 22nd of September. I look forward to meeting you again in the EU Investment Forum. Thank you very much.